All right, let's start. We're late. Hey, I want to welcome everybody to, I think this is episode 10 of the FCP.co live. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Today we're expanding the field of the show. We're covering multiple topics, and we're going to have some people joining and stepping in a little bit later. Also, I will say that when we finish the official show, we're going to invite a few extra people in and we'll just hang out for a little bit, spend a little time together with the community of users. And I also want to say that basically everything I've learned about doing these shows from Zoom, I stole from Alex Lindsay's Office Hours. One of the greatest resources I've come across for learning technology, and it's been great. He's been doing it for almost 2 months now, I think. And if you haven't come across that, you should go check it out. It's really amazing. So today I have to look at my list of things that I'm supposed to cover. Felipe, can you put up the slides? First of all, I want to thank our sponsors. Hold on. Am I host now? No, you have to make me host, Peter, or you want to spotlight Felipe.
You are host.
All right, so then I will spotlight Felipe. We want to thank our sponsors, Otherworld Computing. I'm totally stoked that this is the company that's sponsoring us. I've had great experiences with them in the past, and they have an amazing line of products. And in a future episode, we're going to have somebody from OWC come on and talk about all of that. The other sponsor is Industrial Revolution. And that's, if you didn't know, that's yet another Peter Wiggins joint. And great plugins available at FX Factory. So if you don't know FX Factory and you don't know Industrial Revolution, you should totally check that out. And I've been requesting that we have a whole show with all the big plugin makers for Final Cut. As you know, one of the nice things about Final Cut is the whole ecosystem that they created nearly 10 years ago with both Final Cut and Motion and how they interact together. So that's going to be a whole nother show that we do later. And then sponsors out of the way. Let's talk about post-production world.
Great.
Liat. This is your baby, and this is a classic example of a real life event pivoting to being a virtual event. Tell us a little bit about what post-production world is and maybe what it was gonna be, and then I want to talk about what it is.
And don't forget the competition.
Oh, hold on, wait! Before you do that, I have a whole bunch, and I'm horrible at this. Sorry, Peter. I have a whole bunch of passes to give away to post-production world, and Peter has a screen he's going to put up, and it's a link to fcp.co. If you ever have any questions about the show, just go to Peter's website, fcp.co, and you can learn all about it. So here's the deal. There are many ways that you can enter for these passes. We're giving away like 10 or 15, 10. I don't know, 10 passes to post-production world. And there's different ways that you can get chances to win. And I'm not smart enough to explain it all to you, but it's all there. You can read about it. 149 entries have already been made. We have 10 of these to give away, and we're going to give it away at midnight London time. Thursday. So
you've got two days to enter.
Yeah, all I can tell you is that's at some point in the future.
That's good, because Thursday is good, or Friday. When are you handing them out on Friday?
Yeah, we'll send them the winners to you Friday.
Great, because Saturday night we already have our happy hour kickoff, virtual, of course, before the event. So they should make it before that. So yeah, okay. This should actually mark the 17th year of Post-Production World. We were supposed to all of us meet in Vegas this year. Post-Production World is basically the largest training industry event that we have for digital media experts and advanced users, intermediate to advanced users, really. And we produced this in partnership with NAB Show. So yes, year 17 was supposed to be in Vegas, but due to Corona and all that, we decided to pivot to be a virtual, online, live, interactive event. And when we say interactive, the goal is to really still serve the community and not just to sit back and watch a webinar type of experience. We're going to be facilitating networking events and BYOB and breakout intimate meeting rooms, as we call them on Zoom. In addition to, of course, the regular sessions and keynotes. We have amazing keynotes, cinematographer from The Joker. We have Marianne Brandon, who worked on Star Wars and Star Trek. Vashi, ACE. We have Chris Doe. We're going to be talking a lot about actually these days now and how creative professionals are surviving during these days. All from production to post-production to new media, emerging tech, AR, VR, and all that good stuff. So if you want, I'll quickly share my screen just to show what we have in plan.
That would be great.
Perfect.
Yeah, I went through the speaker list the other day. I was like, good grief, they just sent out invitations to everybody but me. Awesome.
I mean, so yeah, you could see some of them here. I'm going to scroll through real quick so that you get a chance to see who we have. Brad Jones is one of our speakers. We're going to have Sam as well. So some people who are here with us right now will be speaking and teaching sessions in the Apple tracks, which are actually
wait, go back up. Did I see Jeff Greenberg's face?
You did see Jeff Greenberg's face. He'll be here. He's fashionably late as usual.
Yeah, whatever, Jeff.
Whatever, Jeff. We'll see him soon. So yeah, these are some of our amazing speakers.
Scott Simmons.
Yep.
Abba.
You've got your
Patrick
Alex
Southern
Lindsay there.
Lee Herbert. Yeah, it's a who's who of everybody.
Yep. The program is great. We're starting off, as I mentioned, on Saturday with a kickoff. It's actually going to be in the format of a meeting so we could see everyone's faces, something very strange during these times when we're so disconnected and in our homes. So we're going to have everyone kind of in this format. Person with the best virtual background may win a prize. So, you know, in this case, Felipe, you may have won the prize. Then we move on to day one. This grid will actually be hyperlinked and all of our registered attendees will just at the click of a button be able to, you know, attend live. For example, they'd click on this and it would get them straight into the Zoom webinar.
So are you maintaining the multiple track metaphor where you kind of have to decide what you want to watch at any given hour?
That's true. So what we're telling attendees is this: the sessions they want to attend live and have that interactive experience where they speak, you know, ask questions in the chat pod, just like we all know how the Zoom webinar works now, and get answers in real time. That's what they would do. But in their full pass, they of course get the recordings of all the sessions, everything happening post-event for 4 months to stream. So I'm going to stop my screen unless you guys have any questions.
No, that's good.
Okay.
I think, can you just mention the right-hand side? Because that's the Apple track, isn't it, to start off with?
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
Okay,
I just wanted to, no, that's fine. So basically the full pass is, you know, access live to anything you want. And then rest assured that you'll get everything going on here that you didn't get to attend live as a recording post-event.
Awesome.
Yeah. So now I'm going to zoom in real quick on the Apple track. We've been in partnership with Apple for years now, training the industry on both creative and technical sessions. So this is called the Apple Ecosystem for Filmmakers track. It's happening Sunday, May 17th and May 18th. And these are open to all, meaning anyone who clicks in does not need their registration to be on the back end. They would just, you know, enter and be able to watch these amazing sessions by these speakers. So you'll see some editing and mixing classes. There's some panels. This one I find especially interesting in our world today. You've got your Alex Lindsay there, Chris. He's teaching a lot with us. You know, the importance of captioning, which is something we've worked with Storm Smith at the FCPX Creative Summit.
Can I point out that Lee's surname's wrong? Because I got it wrong and he sent me an email saying it's wrong. I don't think there's an R.
That's been fixed and it will be updated in an hour. I know it's we're aware. So yeah, these are the lineups of all of the sessions, especially, you know, Apple track is very exciting what we have in store this year.
And just to be clear, the Apple track is actually free.
Correct.
Wow. That's great stuff. And is that, I'm just curious, is that just a byproduct of the relationship you have with Apple?
Yeah, they want to they're contributing back to the community and
you know what? I hear people all the time in the Final Cut world, or actually the fringe of the Final Cut world. They'll say, you know, Apple doesn't care. They don't care about professionals. And I get so angry when I hear that, because this is a clear example. You know, like Adobe's not paying for a track, are they? No. You know,
well, we have sponsors who are, of course, helping us bring this event to the community during these hard times, and Adobe is one of them, of course.
Yeah, but Apple's actually saying, "Yep, come on in." I mean, it's the antithesis of what you hear quite often in the community, is that Apple doesn't care about professionals. I think it's a bunch of crap, really.
That really is. Me. And I can say this from personal experience of years now. And Cirina, you know, you and I hang out at the summit every year, and they're very much about giving back.
Yeah. Oh, they are. Absolutely.
Yeah, the Creative Summit last year was awesome. I missed not having Jeff there, but I got to host it.
That was fun.
And it was. And another example of how somebody's got a spare mic open.
And I can say this from personal experience of years now. And Cirina, you and I hang out at the summit every year, and they're very much
got an open tab.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Creative Summit last year was
awesome. Meeting people. Is it Peter?
Not having Jeff there, but I got to host it.
That was fun.
It was one of Felipe's feeds. Okay, I just muted everybody if you're trying to talk. But yeah, at the Creative Summit last year, you know, Apple is always there in force. There's a bunch of people, you know, floating around. Sometimes they kind of hang in the shadows, but they're absolutely there. And it's been amazing to be able to sit down and have those face-to-face conversations with people. That's not Felipe. Who's that? Hold on, there's a spare Felipe.
Talk. But yeah, at the Creative Summit last year, you know, Apple is always there in force. There's a
Okay, I don't know. I think Felipe, you shared a link with somebody that. Oh, it's Andy. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's move on. I want to talk a little bit with Brad. So, Brad, you're kind of in. What is your relationship to the Apple track then?
Well, I'm doing a presentation. So I work for a company called Ken. I'm the director of production there. And we're kind of interesting because we have an entirely Final Cut Pro workflow at my company. And we produce digital content for the web, for Facebook, YouTube. We do episodic, unscripted series that are women's lifestyle channels, essentially. And we have about 7 in production right now and a lot more on the way.
7 different series?
Yes, 7 different series currently. We've had more at one time or another. Yeah, but
Good
yeah,
grief. And this is 7. Like weekly that these are coming out?
Yes, every week. Yeah, normally we would edit 2 a week, but since we've been in quarantine, it's been like 1.5. So as we can't really shoot as many episodes at a single time right now. But
right. So you must be taking advantage of, you know, some shared storage, I would imagine, to be able to deal with all that.
Yeah, we actually we normally work off a jellyfish at home, at work in our office.
I've heard of those.
And we turned that into kind of a VPN. So we can grab stuff from it, and we can kind of open a project and move the cache locally and stuff and work off it a bit. But it's primarily just to be able to access, you know, our previous episodes and other old media and stuff. And we also use it to back things up too as well. But Frame.io has been really the main kind of hub for us for the most part. So
yeah, we had Emery on last week talking about some of his new offerings and stuff. So do you have your editors working from home now, or are you sending a few people in?
Everybody works from home right now. So basically what we had to do was we had to basically turn all of our talents into self-shooters. You know, their background's they're not YouTube creators or anything like that. So we had to teach them within like a week or so how to be able to self-shoot. We had to send them kits. We sent them like DJI Osmo Pockets, and like we created an entire like, you know, educational program for them in like a week. And we got them all up and running, and now they're all self-shooting and lighting everything with like a ring light, and they're uploading everything to Frame.io. And then the assistant editor takes all of those assets from there and organizes them and distributes them accordingly.
How, so what kind of cameras are they shooting on?
Primarily on the DJI Osmo Pockets, as well as a lot of them are shooting. If they have an iPhone 11 Pro, we let them shoot on that because that camera is great and they already know how to use it. So
right.
It's and just then a matter of getting them audio gear as well to like have better audio and whatnot.
Yeah. So are they using let's say, for example, they're shooting on an iPhone 11 Pro. Are they just using the Frame.io app right on the phone to push the media out?
No, normally, I mean, it depends on how long their clips are. A lot of our unscripted clips get to be particularly long. Sometimes they'll just use the cloud if they have like, 5 to 10 minute clips. But once they start getting into the 20-minute range, you can't really use the Apple Cloud for that. So then they have to offload them from the iPhone and then just dump them onto Frame.io. So we send them over a Frame.io link that they can just drag and drop their footage.
Cool. And have you found that, I mean, I realize, you're not doing tech shows per se, right?
No.
Are you finding that they're having any trouble adopting to absorbing some of that tech responsibility?
Some are quicker studies than others, but right. But yeah, I mean, in general, I think a lot of them are kind of acclimating to it. And once they've done it a few times, they feel a lot more comfortable with it. It's always that first one. And usually when they do their first shoot, we sit there with them on Zoom and we're like there as like a tech backup, basically. Like, any questions they have, we field like live and stuff. And also our producers are entirely producing this off Zoom as well. Wow. So they're like a little fly on the wall on a camera, like telling them what to do and instructing them what to say. And we do brand integrations as well. They do shout outs to brands and whatnot. So we have to make sure those points are covered as well. And we're doing that all remotely at this point. So
Peter, you had a question?
Yeah, I think one thing I said last week is that I always knew that YouTube and broadcast were going to converge at some point. But what I didn't realize was the fact that broadcast TV was going to come down to YouTube. I mean, I'm not trying to knock YouTube. It's just that I turn the TV on now. Everything is Skype interviews. Here's the guest via Skype and everything like that. It just seems to be it's the same content on both methods of delivery. Do you think that your people who do your who are in your YouTube videos are going to carry on doing what they're doing once we get over this, once we get over the coronavirus? Because speaking to Chris, he's saying about, I don't know, we're all working from home and it's good. And, is this going to change things? Because it's been forced on everybody, do you think that some people just won't go back?
I think some won't, and then others will. I think others are like, no, I want the full glam team. I want a wardrobe person. I want to be lit professionally. They want to look as good as possible.
You get Felipe in,
others are like, I can do all this. They're more scrappy and they're like, why not? I get to make a lot more money. Because the thing is, none of our views are not being affected by this. In fact, actually, a lot of the self-shot stuff is actually performing much better than even our more professionally kind of
so that is interesting because it's
it comes off as more authentic, and the audience online really love authenticity. So it's like an immediate advantage to achieve that.
I was on Alex Lindsay's office hours this morning, as I have been for the last couple months, and we had multiple shows that we were kind of pimping at the end of his show, one of which was this show, and I realized that, it dawned on me, it became painfully obvious that a lot of us have more spare time. I mean, there's a lot of us that are working very hard. It's painful to hear the stories of people that I know in the industry that aren't working hard or maybe at all. But do you think your views are up because people have more spare time to be absorbing content?
Well, it kind of varies from episode to episode. So, I mean, it really just depends. We actually had a lot of sort of lucky breaks too. Like one of our biggest shows is called All Things Adrian. And she actually had just bought a new house. So she did like a house tour episode, and her audience just loved that. Previously, she had done a house tour at her previous home, and that is actually one of her biggest, most well-viewed videos. The other one we had was Jeannie Mai for our show Hello Honey. She got engaged. She got engaged to the rapper Jeezy, and we did a whole episode about their engagement.
I'm glad somebody
and his
covered
proposal.
that, because there were so many things that the people needed to know.
The audience loved it. They were like, ate it up. That was huge. It had like 2 million views in like less than a week. So I mean, yeah, we got some lucky breaks and stuff. So as well. So it's, you know.
So Brad, in I read a little bit of your article, which, by the way, there's a great article that Peter will pull up the screen for us that's on the website. You guys obviously haven't always been cutting in Final Cut 10, right?
No, not at all. When I first started, we were still in Final Cut 7. I think I started a little over 5 years ago at this point. And then
whoa, 5 years ago, and you guys were still on Final Cut 7?
Yes.
Oh,
and shortly after, I'd say
so
about 4 months, I think about 4 months after I started, we moved over to Adobe Premiere. And then for about 2 years, we cut in Adobe Premiere in the Creative Cloud. And hold on. Yeah,
quick question. If I was going to ask you the number one reason why you got off of the number one pain point in Premiere, just out of curiosity.
Well, I would say, there were two big ones for us. The big one was at the time that we switched, Premiere did not have the ability that Final Cut had, where the integration with Motion. In Motion, you can create a template, a really great motion graphic, publish it to Final Cut, and then any editor on any station could then quickly modify that motion graphic. And we used so many motion graphics in our shows. A lot of times our shows are just someone talking to the camera, sitting on the couch. So to make things interesting and to keep a lot of variety, we have to use a ton of graphics. So that was a big game changer for us. That and the third-party plugins. So this vast kind of ecosystem was. The other one's the multicam. The multicam in Final Cut Pro is just vastly better than the one in Adobe Premiere, in my opinion.
Right. So was it hard to get your editors to switch?
Not at first. No, actually. So my lead editor, he's been on everything. He started in Media 100, and then he moved to Final Cut, and then he moved to Premiere really easily. So he's very he adapts rather quickly. So, and he really liked it. So we actually did it out of necessity. One of our producers really wanted this sort of hand-drawn graphic in one of our shows called Pretty Penny.
I read about this in the article. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were like looking at spending like anywhere from $1,000 to like $1,500 per episode to do this, to hire an animator to do this per episode. And I was like, well, that's going to take a while. Also, it's really expensive. And I was like, there's this plugin, but it's only for Final Cut Pro called M Chalkboard that Motion VFX makes. Right. And he was like, great, can we do that? I was like, well, I'll just have to train Sam on how to use Final Cut. I know how to use Final Cut. I've used it on a lot of music videos and whatnot. And he really liked it. Like, he didn't want to go back afterwards. So I was like, we can switch over. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it. So that's just kind of the decision we made. It was actually a great decision because all of our content has just progressively got more graphic heavy. And we've gotten even more and more creative with those graphics, and being able to build them all in-house has just saved us a small fortune. So.
Yeah, it's not an unusual story. And what's frustrating as a fanboy, and I definitely am, is how often you hear people on the other side of the fence speaking using old facts, wrong facts, from I won't say a position of ignorance, because my mother said that was mean, but I would say just a position of not being informed.
Most
about the
people's
capabilities.
Most people's reactions to Final Cut is basically, this is what happened in 2011, and that's all they know. Oh, it has multicam. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, it has XML. I don't know that.
Stephen Bay says that most people think don't acknowledge the fact that there's been, what is it, 27, 29 different updates to Final Cut in the last 9 years. Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is. But
I wonder if
I didn't have a problem convincing my team, and since then I've been hiring editors that know Final Cut as well, as we've kind of expanded our roster. So.
And where are you based, Brad?
Los Angeles.
Okay, and you're finding editors.
I am. Yes. I mean, it was an
That's awesome.
early challenge, but the more I've networked, the more I've found, for sure. So actually the article really opened the floodgates recently.
Oh, really? That's great.
Yeah. A lot of people have been coming out of the woodwork asking me.
I should start a recruitment agency up, not a kind of like a website.
You should.
Final Cut dating agency.
Yeah.
No, I think that's why these types of forums, whether it's shows like this or Peter's site, or you have to get that word out. And I think that too many people just think, it's a toy, all the crap we always hear. And it's great to hear wonderful success stories.
Yeah. Can I get in with a question for Liat? Ben Bulser on YouTube says, is the Apple track going to be available afterwards? Yeah, you need to mute yourself. Am I unmuted? Okay. No, well, should be okay.
She's muted. Yeah.
Did you hear me?
There you go.
Thank you, Chris. Chris has the unmuting powers.
Oh, you know what? That might be because we had the feedback earlier and I muted everybody. That's a good point. Has anybody else tried to unmute and jump in? Felipe. Okay. I will let me unmute everybody, and then I'm just going to ask that you go ahead and remute yourself, unless of course you have something you want to say. So I'm going to unmute. It's the power of the host mode.
I have a hardware mute here, so I'll keep on the hard one.
All right, Liat, you were saying? I apologize.
Yes. So Peter, what was the question?
The question was from Ben on YouTube saying, are the Apple track videos going to be available after the event as well?
Yes. So just like all of the sessions at Post Production World Online, they're all going to be recorded and all will be available for streaming post-event.
Look who's joining us.
He's late.
He's late.
But he's here.
He's probably fresh off another show.
There's so many of you.
We were all just waiting for you. All right, let's start the show. Hey, Jeff Greenberg's here. How are you, Jeff?
I'm outstanding. Brad, I think you're the only one who I haven't talked to in the last 2 weeks. I've talked to nearly everybody else here, and for those of you who I haven't spoken to, and Andy, I apologize. I will buy you drinks next time we're in person. I'd like to buy first round. Hi, everybody. What have I missed?
We were just talking about all of the classes that you are teaching at Post Production World, and we were all speculating about all the wonderful things you would be sharing. So, is there anything you would like to add to that?
I actually have to take a look. I have to take a look to see what I'm teaching.
Jeff is such a dead ringer. He just walks in and says, "Give me a topic, and I will go."
I can't do that. I legit can't do that at this moment. There are a couple topics I'd be in trouble with.
It's frightening.
I would be in real trouble if you were to ask me right now about how badly I want a roll mixer in Final Cut 10. Not that I'm saying that's what I want. Yeah.
So while Jeff is looking up his commitments, I'm going to ask him the question I ask him every time I see him: Is your invoicing up to date, Jeff?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Not everybody's paid, but my invoicing's 100% up to date.
Okay.
100% up to date. So I'm doing for Post-Production World, the virtual version of it. The thing that I'm actually most excited about, forgetting my classes because they're interesting to me, but I'm interviewing Marianne Brandon. Marianne, she cut 2 of the Star Wars films. I think she cut 1 or 2 of the Star Trek films. She got How to Train Your Dragons, Passengers. I've interviewed her a couple times, and she just is such an amazing. She's dealt with more action film than I've watched, which is hard to believe. She's going to be just a blast. We're going to talk craft. we're going to do the same thing with Vashi Naransky. I can never pronounce his last name right. Vashi was a big reason that Adobe was able to, get, what was it? I want to say Daredevil. It's not. It's Deadpool. Thank you. Which I've only seen like 9 times. He was the one who really helped Deadpool make it a thing to happen. And then I'm talking to, and Liat, you have to give me their names right. It's is it Jerry and who's the right? It's embarrassing. The guys who were the cinematographer from the Joker and the camera ops. And I'm really curious. They were both often shooting dual shoots, dual people. They were both shooting the same scene. She's waiting to be unmuted, is what she said. So those are fun. Those are fun hour-long interviews, and we're going to take some questions live for that. Who? Yes. Give me their names because it's so embarrassing. I don't have them in front of me.
Lawrence Scher,
Larry
Scher, and Jeff Smith. It's actually pronounced Jeff.
Wow. Is he not a Jeffrey? I think he's a Jeffrey.
It is a Jeffrey, but I think we'll have to ask him how to introduce him, Jeff or Jeffrey.
I'm not a Jeffrey. My parents couldn't afford those last 3 letters. I'm teaching on Sunday, I'm teaching a Working Faster in Premiere Pro. I'm teaching a class, 8 a.m. Monday morning. Whose idea was that? I'm
glad that slipped by you.
Yeah, twice. I'm doing one on video compression and how to do some automation. I know, looking at this collective room of smart people, I know that video compression might be one of the most boring things on the planet, but I love teaching stuff that's difficult to teach, and compression's a fun thing to do.
The thing about compression is it's a boring subject until you've got to get a file down to a specific size. And then you are on it. You are going through compressor. You're looking at everything, trying to compress something down to 15 meg to go onto Twitter. It's like, what size should it be? It's everything. You keep hitting that button to try and get it down.
Peter, I'm going to throw one out there for you. You guys might not know this one. One of you guys, I'm sure, has heard of bitrate.info. It's one of my favorite websites around compression. All it does is you give it 2 of the 3 pieces, your bit rate and how many minutes, and it'll tell you the file size. You give it the file size you want it to be and how many minutes, it'll tell you the bit rate. It's phenomenal. It's a natural language processing. It's one of my secret weapons. When somebody goes, oh, we're trying to figure out how big this will be, I make it like I'm doing it in my head and I'm going to bitrate.info. It's just a blast of
now you guys know why Jeff gets a 5 out of 5 after every session.
Right.
Just being too sweet.
Felipe, you had a question?
No, I was just going to comment the thing about what Peter was saying about getting to a very small size. Actually, I always use Handbrake for that because they do compression with variable bitrate and very good calculation they do there, constant quality and all. And I see that Jeff is almost about to explode there.
I am going to explode. I think Handbrake's an amazing tool, but not for the reason that you're thinking. And then I've got another tool for you for free. So Handbrake is something that generally is not as available as I would like, which is constant quality-based compression. It's known as CRF, or constant reference frame. And one of the magic things about Handbrake is from about 18 to 23, it's a number. It's not variable bit rate. It's not constant bit rate. It's guaranteeing a quality.
Quality, yeah.
Now I mentioned that, and then I'm going to mention a tool that this year has become very much on my radar called Shutter Encoder. It's a French kind of post guy, and it's a full, easy, free front end to FFmpeg. And it's just absolutely breathtaking, all the things it does. It even does illicit ProRes encodes based on FFmpeg. Really just a phenomenal encoder. The guy who does it is super passionate, and I keep watching him make these great incremental changes. And Philippe, it does a CRF switch. It'll do it for H.264 or H.265. It's a great little tool.
Downloading it right now.
Yeah, I'll give you a good warning. When you double click on it, it's going to make your system pause for a second. And I just don't want you to freak when that happens. It's like just 1 second's worth. Other bizarre stuff I'm teaching. I'm doing a class on closed and open caption workflows. I have to say that a really dear friend who's speaking in the Apple track, Storm Smith, has made me so passionate about getting more people using closed captioning. I'm looking at all these people I know, and flat out, there's no reason on this planet why your work shouldn't be mandatory caption. It's 20% of your audience. And that's not including the people who look at it on Instagram and just look at GIFs. I just have this belief that if you believe in your work, not even good encoding, I'd like perfect, whether it's Rev or somebody else, at $1 a minute, you have no excuse not to have perfect captions on your work at this day and age.
We have to use captions in our work. It ups the audience views dramatically. So all of our content is captioned via rev.com.
Yeah, it's a 20%. It's a 20% minimum that it's going to get to an audience. 20% of people have a hearing issue.
There's another issue involved in captioning, and I don't know if any of you have heard about this, but there are lawyers that are chasing down people, especially big companies, and forcing. Basically, they're issuing lawsuits. There's some law that went into effect in the last few years.
501c compliance.
There you go. Thank you. Once again, Jeff Greenberg, 505, knows everything.
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. That's why Liat would never do a show without Jeff. But anyway, yeah,
Chris,
I mean, there's legal reasons.
We can bring my wife in. We can bring my wife in. I guarantee you.
I have a chair for her.
Yeah, there's a nice chair.
Peter, I have a chair for her.
There's also another big factor about captions is a lot of people are watching this on their phone and they're watching it with the sound off. So the captions, it ups your views that way as well. It's not just for the hearing impaired, it's for the people that don't want to hear it.
That is true, Brad. You win.
I've been known to watch complete Netflix series with the sound off, knowing that my children won't hear the foul language.
Okay, I gotta tell you a funny story. So years ago, the first year that Game of Thrones had been on, whatever it was on, a producer I worked with gave me a DVD package. Yes, it was DVD of the first season of Game of Thrones. And at the time, my preferred way to watch things for fun was to rip it, leave it on the desktop of my laptop, and wherever I was, I could open up and watch it. So I get to the end of the first season, and I'm thinking, this show is bold. I'm amazed that they decided to make up a language for this mimosa guy, whatever his name is.
Rocky.
Yeah. And to just let him talk and not subtitle it until I saw a clip on YouTube. And I realized that I had ripped it without turning on the subtitles. And I got to the end of the first season having no idea what he said.
Oh, no.
Anyway, that's a embarrassing story to share once in a while. So anyway,
I have an interview coming out in a couple of weeks with Mandy David about how to work with people who sign for the deaf. If you are a producer, Jeff, is she going to be signing for Storm or Liat? Maybe you know, is Mandy going to be signing for Storm?
You know it.
She's awesome. Yeah, I learned a lot working with her about how, as a director producer, you can best work with the deaf if you have somebody signing. It's pretty interesting. I'm so glad you're doing that, Jeff, because it's really important.
Storm has made me such a convert. I would let my secret side project aside. I wish it was something I was very involved with her. I've got a side project that I hope before the end of the year, and it's going to be free. It's just some education around captioning, and it's just under that belief that there's not a filmmaker out there who should be releasing their work without captions to go along with it. And I think it's worth embarrassing them about it because, again, 20% of the audience, I was actually going to try and petition like the AMC chain before COVID to go, it's embarrassing that you guys like just once a month do a caption show. You should do it every Sunday.
Let's move on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Lumberjack will do captions automatically. When you export it back into Final Cut, you'll have your captions.
Okay,
anyway,
let's move on.
Can I mention my last class?
one last class from Jeff.
Okay, I'm just doing one on eGPUs and other mobile technology with the latest toy, and I'm sure half of you guys own one of these, is a Stream Deck. It's such fun. I got it last night, spent about 2 hours playing with it.
Yay.
Philippe has one. Chris has one. I'm late to the game. To the game.
So Cirina, I got to listen to most of your episode, your most recent podcast. We're changing gears here.
Okay.
And I want to introduce Cirina, Orlando, and Andy Stein. And Cirina, tell me a little bit about the episode that you just recently did on OWC Radio and what it was about.
You know, I really want to thank the guys at Otherworld Computing for sponsoring, because they understand completely the desire that I have to marry a discussion about creativity and tech together. Because I think that technology, and all of us are technologists, but we also are very creative. So when Sam told me about Orphaned Starfish, and I met Andy, and then Orlando was talking about how it really literally changed his life, I thought, that's perfect. And I was just moved by it. I was really moved by speaking with Orlando and watching him talk about how much working with these children who have been in terrible situations, but who are now living a happy life. And I saw some of the clips you sent me, which we're going to put in the video, Orlando, of the kids just screaming with laughter while Andy was making balloons for them. And, you know, children are so innocent. And this marriage of technology and creativity that happens in these orphanages, I think you have, 65 computer centers now around 69. The world. Pardon me?
69 now.
69 computer centers, and over 15,000 kids are being taught how to use them and what to do with them, and then the mobile filmmaking aspect of it. So
let me give just a little bit of background. So Andy, you describe yourself as a reformed banker. Is that what you say?
I'm a recovering banker. Yeah.
Recovering banker. Okay. And you had a deal that I don't know how you managed this. I'd love to hear you tell a little bit more about it, where you said if you were going to travel to a place to work, you had a stipulation. Explain what that stipulation was.
So yeah, I was a very senior banker at Chase and its predecessor companies, but and I basically went to every country manager and said, if you want me to come to your city and pitch business, we were in high demand financing hotels and infrastructure projects around the world. You had to find me an orphanage, 2 hours in the schedule, and let me put some kids. And they did. Everyone wanted me to come to their country, and I made balloon animals, and I did magic tricks, and I sat down, helped them with their homework, and I found that these kids were had incredible drive. They had been through such horrible histories, but had incredible drive, incredible hope, but really needed the tools to succeed. And that's why we started the foundation, to give them that opportunity. So
one of the things that I think is really the key to this story, because I think ultimately you could sit down with anybody in this industry, or for that matter, in just about any job, and ask them, does your life feel like it's fulfilling? And the question becomes, we hear people talk about things that are immensely, emotionally satisfying, fulfilling aspects of their life. But it's that bridge point from I'm not happy to I am happy. It's that connection point that's difficult. You had enough say in your position where you could say, I will come and talk to you, but here's the deal. You got to get me 2 hours in my schedule. And, Orlando Luna works for a fairly well-known fruit company in California. And yet, Orlando, you found that you could take some of your experience and background and get involved in this also. How did you end up being a part of this?
Well, my colleague Tim David and I have been working with Sam Messman for a while, for the fruit company projects at NAB and stuff. So we've known Sam for many, many years. And Sam kind of told me about what he was doing. He laid it out. He told me where he was going, what he was doing. And it wasn't so much what he said, although that was a big part of it, but how he said it. I've known Sam long enough to go, wow, this is almost like a different Sam. And I'm like, tell me more about it. And so Sam introduced me to this, and quickly, kind of created the dotted lines and links to Andy. And it for me, it was the perfect storm to be able to take, a skill set that, we're all of us on this panel are just obsessed with this, right? We love doing this, but to apply it to something where you walk away and you're seeing people are affected by it in a positive way that really need it, where it isn't just business, it isn't just, dollars and cents, and everybody along the line, Andy, same thing. You could tell, Andy could be, hosting parties on a big giant yacht somewhere if he would have taken a different business track, but Andy didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I gave up and did what my heart told me to do. But go ahead, Logan.
So, Sam told me about this, and I'm like, I'm in. And, my company gave me some flexibility to be involved. But beyond that, I told Sam, it doesn't matter how much flexibility my company gives me. I've got vacation time. I've got, time I can take away. I just want to get involved. And,
what
was
it was
funny.
Significant for you? Like, what was the experience? I think that's what I think you should probably share is like, what did you see? Like, what mattered?
What mattered was the life of these kids. I mean, we think orphans, and it's really personal for me. I'm adopted. I have they're passed away, but I had the most fantastic parents, and I just realized just that word, that could have been my story or parts of my story. So going to see these kids, you have these, we all make. Maybe we shouldn't, but we all have ideas of places and maybe people we haven't experienced, and we have almost caricatures of them. These kids are not sad, they're not depressed, they're joyful. They take every little bit of life and every little bit of attention and amp it up 10 times. The small things we take for granted, they're just like absorbing it and loving it. And their stories are stories of joy. Certainly the backstories are stories of, the worst stories you could possibly hear. And, Andy, Andy and I got to spend 12 hours in a car together running around Panama. So I heard a lot of them, but I also heard a few of them from them directly. And they don't use this as an anchor on their life. This is their launching off point. And that's, to me, just incredible. So, child after child, story after story, this is just, something you had to experience. And I think just, again, being involved with this, for me, Andy's just given me a gift, a gift to just reinvigorate what I want to do. Now when I go learn, whatever it might be, Final Cut or LumaTouch, part of me is like, okay, I'm learning this, but as I'm learning it, how can I communicate this to these kids? How can I take what I'm learning in a camera technique or a sound technique that used to be just pragmatic for production and go, well, how would I put this in this environment? How would I help? And fortunately, Sam and We Make Movies kind of laid the tracks for this. They've been doing this for a while, so for years, and we're just kind of iterating on it and evolving it to fit this group.
So let's talk about the Final Cut aspect of it. I can't remember. I was listening to the podcast. One of you was talking about how the kids really took to Final Cut quickly.
Yeah, that was me. So we gave them a choice.
We both saw it.
Yeah, we both saw it. That's true. In different sessions.
Bernardo here. Remember that one little kid, Sam, that he just sat down at the computer. He's elementary school. And he sat down at the computer and he's going, how do I speed this up? Where's the button? It's like, and next thing you know.
I find that it is way easier to teach an elementary school teacher than it is to teach an Avid editor.
Absolutely.
Kid.
Yeah, they're not unlearning anything.
When I come to edit the highlights, that'll be the first thing that's said.
Sorry, Orlando.
It's true though. Everyone's used to this being hard, but like when you sit down and you like, well, I need to explain a 3-point edit and I need to do all these things, and you're like, hey kid, just drag that thing there and you put it next to that one. you're an editor, go. And then they make stuff.
Yeah.
And like this is not complicated, but you see them connect that, and then you see them connect 10 other things, and then suddenly they're onto multicams on day one. And meanwhile, you're trying to still explain, well, no, it's actually okay to use Final Cut instead of Premiere on day 10 with other people. And like this is the difference. It's like, just get on with it. Go make something. Like, why do we need to create all of these barriers, I think? And whereas when you get kids with fresh eyes, they just want to do something cool. Whereas all the grown-ups are like, I need the world explained to me.
Yeah. Orlando, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No. Yeah, I think it's interesting. We gave the kids the choice of, hey, you know, if they were using MacBook Pros, you could use iMovie or you can use Final Cut Pro, and we give them a little bit of the differences, and every single one of them's like, yeah, I'm using Final Cut Pro. You know, they wanted, you know, they hear the word pro and they're like, yeah, I can do that. You know?
Andy, could you say a bit about how you went from balloon modeling to that's what struck me in the podcast. It was a great transition between that and supplying computers.
Well, I was always, basically when I was going and making my balloons, which I'll make them for you in a second.
He's prepared. Yes.
The nuns in one orphanage took me aside and said, look, Tio Mago, which is Uncle Magician, there you go. The girls love you. They can't wait till you come back. But I'm not sure if you know what happens here. At the age of 18, these girls, who are all victims of horrible abuse, have little jobs, have no job skills, have little education, and 100% of these girls will go into prostitution or live on the streets. So basically, we made the decision, the nuns and I back then, that we would build a state-of-the-art computer center, and that education and job training was going to be the way out. And I think I talk in the piece that in now 19 years with that orphanage, only one girl's gone to the streets, and that was early. Every other girl's gone on to get a job or get into university. And I guess what I come back and say is what you all are providing is threefold. And Sam puts this really well too, is that you're giving them the tools for education. They're learning a new skill. They're learning something that they desperately want to learn, and the drive you see, the hunger, the desire to do better is in each and every one of these kids. You're also giving them opportunity, and you're giving them opportunity for a job in the future. What I hear all of you talking about are the jobs that you're doing using this software. These kids are going to have such a leg up by having the expertise in this software that Sam and Orlando are going to teach them, that it's, you know, they're going to be able to get great quality jobs in the future. And then more than anything, what these kids need is hope. And that's what you're giving them. You're giving them these tools, you're entrusting them with these tools, with this education. You're giving them hope that their future is going to be better than what it is today. It's absolutely amazing. This partnership with Sam and Orlando and OWC and all of you is something that's going to be very, very special, and will change lives. Will truly change lives, not just kind of say it, but we'll follow the kids who learn this, both from a very individual, immediate gratification, where they'll start producing videos about their lives, to the longer term where you'll see them getting jobs as editors all over the world.
I think it's an interesting comparison between, you know, the stuff I make is very disposable. You know, it goes out, you know, before it goes to air, it's the most important thing out. The moment it goes out, it's completely disposable. Yet your kids are using the same tools, but they're changing their lives. And for me, I find the comparison between what I do and what they do fascinating, because really what I do is just make a bit of telly and it goes out. Whereas, you know, you're changing people's lives.
Yeah, but the opportunity for these kids to make a little telly, to make telly about their own lives, or to make it, as a job in the future, is going to mean so much to them. And they may get to the point where you are, where they make something that's really important, and then the next thing out is not. But their whole lives and the lives of their families and the lives of the next generation have changed because of it.
Well, what does it do for them to go from not being able to make something and not having some of this experience to then getting the accomplishment of actually turning something out or learning this skill that then gets applied? What does that do for somebody's mentality?
Well, it does, remember, a lot of these kids have been through abandonment, abuse, trafficking, you name it. And it gives them that hope that I talked about, that they can now be in control. They can be in control of their future. They can be in control of their education. You giving them the access to actually make movies, to whether it's about their experience or whether it's about something else they want to do in the future, is giving them a voice. And that's so important to kids who've been through what they've been through. And then the next piece of, giving them an education and a job that changes their cycle of abuse, their cycle of poverty. There are kids who I've worked with for now 19 years that are now bank tellers, that are working in, that are computer teachers, that are, they run a hair salon, whatever it is. Their lives changed forever because they had access to technology.
And then how did the communities change?
So then the next step is the communities, right? Because the communities that these girls and boys are coming from are ones where the history of abuse, the history of abandonment is kind of entrenched. And these kids are breaking that cycle. And they act as mentors and role models for the next group of children that are coming through. And then their families have broken that cycle. So their kids are now going off and they're going to be, positive members of the community and inspire others. So it's a knock-on, it's an exponential effect that you're all having by giving these kids access to and training in technology.
Hey,
Jeff Greenberg.
Do you have any breakout stars?
We do. We have a couple. There's this one girl, Marisol, who I talk about all the time. When she first met me, she was the victim of the worst abuse in recorded Chilean history. Our sisters have brain damage. There's all kinds of horrible backstory that you don't need. But she saw the computer. She had never seen a computer before in her life. She was scared of what a mouse was because she thought it was a real mouse. But then she took to it immediately. She taught herself English. She taught herself to read. She read every single Harry Potter book online. She got a scholarship. She graduated summa cum laude from college. And now she's a bank vice president in Santiago. Bought her first house. I walked her down the aisle 2 years ago for her wedding. And then she was told because of the abuse, she'd never be able to have children. And I went right before COVID. I was fortunate enough to go down for my birthday where she showed me her 1-year-old son. So the cycle was broken. The education was used. And then she spends all of her time going back to the girls who are in the orphanage now, teaching them whatever she can and showing them their future. And by the way, I've got stories like that in all 29 countries I work in.
I love the fact that all of this came about because you just said, yeah, I need 2 hours to go visit an orphanage.
I was one of the top flyers, if not the #1 flyer in New Jersey on Continental Airlines. I was flying more miles than any human being could fly, and I was damn if I was going to keep doing business and not do it.
What were you like 400,000 miles or something like that? I can't even imagine.
Actual, not these kind of fake miles.
Kind of like George Clooney in that movie.
Yeah, but I never found the hot chick at the. No, I'm sorry. I never.
Did they name a plane after you?
They did not name a plane after me.
Lightweight numbers. You got to get those numbers up, Andy.
I know.
I've had a couple of people text me and say that they were really inspired by you and, well, by everyone that we were talking about in the interview, and Orlando, you, and talking about Sam. And these are people that work in our industry. Everyone needs a purpose. And I think they're being inspired to understand that the use of technology and just getting out there and sharing yourself with people and helping other people can help them too. And they're feeling courageous to go out and try something new. And then Sam, I think you're getting a lot of responses to the mobile phone studio, right? The smartphone studio activities. You're really changing lives. And you had both talked about working more in reservations, right? In the Native American community. And I see a lot of that coming in the future. This is exciting. This is very exciting.
Look, I think something happened somewhere along the line where I think it's Chicago, when we were doing this stuff in Chicago, and you hear a kid describe that you're working with what a food desert is, and most people don't even know what a food desert is, and you hear them talk about this, and you realize that's in a major metropolitan city. And then you see how the bureaucracy and all of these other things surround these kids. And you realize that, like, look, I wanted to be a filmmaker. Okay, boo-hoo, I never got to do what I wanted to do. And then I did all these other things. But then you realize, like, just exactly how little a lot of these other kids have, and how the opportunities in education that you kind of take for granted, it is literally impossible for it to touch them, because the world is set up in a way where it can't reach them. And then you get a chance to go and disrupt some of that, and you get a chance to go and impact some of these kids that you would never get to meet's lives. Or you go to a Native American reservation and you walk in all excited to explain how cheap it is to make content with your cell phone, and you pull out the cell phone and they're like, "Are you rich?"
Right.
And you realize exactly like what the problem is here. And then you realize even worse, you have to go to these places and then you yank the gear away from them. And that's just like something shifts in you and you're like, I don't care about most of this crap anymore, guys, to be honest with you. I'm here because like there's just a bigger thing to be done. So we have this community, we have all of these things. Most of the content we make is crap and it's disposable and it's boring and the marketing stuff is just absurd. I would much rather figure out how we get together and make some cool things and actually do something fun versus figure out how we make some more billionaires, some more money for their stupid freaking corporations that no one cares about.
Well, those stupid freaking corporations can help these kids in a great way. And I think you're marshaling a lot of that support for, we've had, unfortunately, we haven't had a great deal of support in the tech world. We have some great support from other industries. And I think this is a natural for the tech world to support. I think using technology to help kids get ahead, and Sam, what you're going to do for these kids with We Make Movies is absolutely amazing. And I have to apologize. I have to go off. We have these calls called You Are Not Alone, where we get as many of the kids in each of the different programs, all 69, on a phone with a bunch of supporters and a couple of singers or songwriters or something. I've had everyone from the woman who wrote the song Despacito to the star of Wicked, Jagged Little Edge, and Hamilton. But I'm about to head on one of those calls.
Go do your thing, Andy. Thank you so much.
You're all thinking about them, and let them know they're going to be one of the first to get to make the We Make Movies. So I think, and let me just leave with a plug for all of you and say thank you so much for letting me on and to let the voice of these kids come through all of you. And Orlando will play himself down. His interaction with these kids was magical. Watching him interact, see them, dance with them, and just see their enthusiasm. Then his enthusiasm towards them was something that was really magical to see. So thank you all. Thank you, Cirina, for that beautiful piece that you did. Let me get to go see these kids and talk to them and give them some love and hope. Thank you all very, very much.
Bye, Andy.
Bye, Andy.
Can I jump in and ask Orlando what you actually do? Do the kids turn up and you say, right, today I'm going to show you how to shoot on an iPhone, and then we're going to edit, or do they get a task, or how do you go about it?
Well, it's dependent on how much time we have with them, but usually there are three parts to it. We help them build some fundamental techniques and actually build their story. And we're not curating their story. We're not telling them, hey, here's what we think you should do. Maybe we'll give them some overlying theme, but they have complete creativity there. And we get them shooting right away. To Sam's point, we're not spending a lot of time on theory. We're really saying, here are the basics of how I use this camera. We use Filmic Pro on the iPhones. We have wonderful support, sometimes permanent, sometimes temporary, from a lot of manufacturers. Sometimes we have DJI gimbals and all kinds of, Rode mics, Ceramic mics. I don't want to miss anybody. Apogee Electronics is supplying us gear. And we get them shooting. Sam's, put them through a basic, exit project sometimes to learn where they do 5 shots, they exit a door. And there's one in particular where we're following a balloon around through an exit. And it's just so creative. There's no way we could have thought of that, but they get something done quickly on the camera. We've talked a lot about Sam and I, but this is something much larger than just us. I mean, we try to get local educators, local filmmakers, local tech people involved, to be able to mentor. And also, we're trying to build community. We're popping in and out. The community is something we're hoping to build up. So we send them out in small groups. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, to build on that is the whole goal is to have other people steal this idea. So, really it's to have communities pick this up, run with it, tell their own stories, and see what happens when the gatekeeper has sort of just casually been removed. and allowing, you know, stories and communities. For me, the highest form of this would be reinvigorating a town square where any community can have its own impromptu film festival based on stuff they worked with on together and with each other, and having families make movies together, and having kids make movies together, and have those look like Hollywood movies in their own town square. And then you can have communities sharing this stuff together, and we can just bypass the whole thing.
Yeah, we're taking away the fear of gear too. We're making the gear easy to use, and it's so lightweight. You can put it all in one kit and travel.
The gear is the background. We really focus on the storytelling aspect, and that's what drives everything. Which is really, you know, I think we all start out going, "Hey, we want to tell stories," and then maybe we get caught up in the tech sometimes. Jeff, you had a question?
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe I missed it because I wasn't here earlier. But how's COVID affecting all this? I imagine it's
let's
really
hold
hard
that
stop.
idea.
Oh, okay.
Let's hold that idea. I'm gonna wrap this up for the actual show.